Today we are going to present our investigation that is called the policy developed by Donald Trump during his government from 2017 to 2020. This is the work outline or scheme of our investigation.
Okay, first, I talk a little about the origin of this topic. Elected as the 45th ruler of the White House, Donald Trump, a candidate for the Republican Party, assumed the presidency of the United States on January 20th, 2017, after beating his opponent for the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton. The victory of this billionaire New York businessman left a sense of surprise in the world of politics, as some felt that he was the first character with no government and military experience to be proclaimed president of North America. Even with all the criticism he received at the time, Trump managed to position himself and went on to win the title of the real outsider in the elections that year.
The main factors that have caused the conflict or issue to be analyzed are that America's global image became worse under Trump administration, who many times insulted very important US allies while cozying up to dictators. The president's tendency to push important allies away and separate the US from any other foreign country had a palpable impact. The Trump administration no tolerance policy on illegal border crossings led to the separation of more than 5,500 families and saw children being placed in what looked like cages. The president of the American Academy of Pediatrics described the practice as nothing less than government sanctioned child abuse. Also, his involvement in different cases inside of the administrative, judicial, and legislative powers, by this going against some of the most important norms and rules of their own constitution.
As a group, we have the following hypothesis: the inefficient performance of Trump as President of the United States. Donald Trump's brand in the United States spreads through various environments. Once his mandate began, the country not only had to upset a person who defied the rules, for which he was accused twice, but also to an unconventional government approach that included major changes at home and abroad. Next, we will explain four arguments that show the negative characteristics that candidate Trump put in place during his time at Capitol residency.
Internal politics. The majority of Trump's immigration policies have been made official by executive actions and also existing laws, not through the approval of the Congress. He's working on legislation to send to Congress that will give an award immigration status only based on skill and merit. Trump's immigration policies are centered around 8 areas. One is restrict legal immigration, have the border wall with Mexico completely built, reduce the number of people seeking for asylum, stop immigrants the opportunity to receive benefits, put an end to the deferred action for childhood arrivals program, and deport every recipient, restrict travel and visas for designated countries. The border wall with Mexico. President Trump made a promise to complete a wall in the 1,954-mile US border with Mexico, a wall that would be between San Diego and Tijuana. It was originally authorized in 1996 during the George W. Bush administration that built 615 miles of walls. Trump initially promised to make Mexico pay for the wall, but that never happened. In 2019, Trump made a declaration of national emergency to allow defense funds and be able to be diverted to the wall construction. But because of a difference in opinion between the Republicans and Democrats, it never happened. His involvement in justice were that the Trump administration has been present many times in the justice system decisions and also in investigations made by the FBI. At the beginning of his term, he looked to browbeat Attorney General Jeff Sessions into completely reverse his recusal from the Russia investigation. He tried to ask the FBI Director James B. Comey to stop pursuing a case against Michael Flynn, who was his former national security advisor. All of this according to Comey's congressional testimony. His foreign policy. Donald Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the 2015 nuclear deal in May 2018 has created chaos throughout the Middle East. It still is one of Trump's most controversial decisions in the global area and has been condemned by very important US allies who were also part of the deal. Trump's decision to take out every US troop out of northern Syria in October 2019 was also one of his most disastrous foreign policy decisions. When he did that, Trump officially abandoned US allied Kurdish forces who had to be there during the US led campaign against ISIS. The withdrawal of the army forces induced a humanitarian crisis and created a security problem that Iran, Russia, and Syrian President Bashar al Assad all benefited a lot from. He threatened to put tariffs on countries that engage in what he deemed not fair trade practices, criticized the World Trade Organization, and said he was going to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, which he called the worst trade deal the United States had ever signed in all history. In January 2017, he stepped back from the Trans Pacific Partnership. It was a regional trade agreement that was between 12 Pacific Rim countries that had been a major foreign policy achievement that the Obama administration did. Finally, in January and March of 2018, the Trump administration decided to announce big tariffs on imports of solar panels, washing machines, that was aimed specifically at China and South Korea, and on imports of aluminum and steel that were made in different countries that they were mostly US allies, not listening at the warnings and the criticisms from the economists and business leaders.
The conflicted relationship of Trump with the media. From the beginning of his administration and onwards, the stance of Trump towards the media was explicit. First, there are the attributes he used to refer to journalists throughout his tenure, from their job grown them as of the people. A report by the IAPA Committee of Press Freedom and Information and its half-year meeting in Cartagena de Indias, Colombia, noted that insults expressed against the media and journalists increased during the presidency of Trump. It also certifies his audacity from the moment it took advantage of how the media structure understands the news in order to be able to issue his own disinformation plan. There was only one absolute truth, and that was held by Trump. And this was reflected in the constant lies exposed on Twitter against media outlets. With this, we can affirm that there is no person in the world capable of understanding the dominance, influence, and conditions of the media as he did. And that was his ace under the sleeve that made it easy for him to degrade the image of the press. In addition, whether from his side as a businessman, candidate, or president, the Republican dignitary has managed his presence in the media for this personal benefit. The reaction of Donald Trump to his defeat in the last election campaign. After a tough electoral contest, the last election in the United States gave us winner to the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. However, the reaction of the opposition candidate Donald Trump about the result presented was not the best. Far from showing respect for the outcome, Trump again demonstrated intolerant attitudes faced with this defeat. The candidate returned from a golf match and only said that he was a unique winner. Afterward, his only statements and applications were based on a list of lies. First, he expressed his disagreement with a statement saying that only legal votes decide who the president is and not the media, and that he will be able to reach the courts. He also mentioned on Twitter that he had won by far and that Biden had triumphed because election was fixed and that he had been presented as a fake winner because he had allies in the media who were helping him. In response to the defamation, election officials mentioned that voting was the safest in the history of the US, and there was no fact to show that there was a voting system that would eliminate or change votes. In order to have a better analysis, we're going to present 4 sources of research with examples that show that they are in accordance with the chosen topic. The first source is a report from the Pew Research Center, and it is fundamental in our work because it shows the final result about the bad performance of Trump as president, since the overall approval rating of the mandatory never exceeded, fell to a low of 40%. of just 29% in his final weeks in office, shortly after a move of his supporters attacked the Capitol. Also, this report evidences the impact of all the lies that Trump said about the press. The results showed that only Republicans had trust on a media outlet incorporated into the studio, Fox News. In addition, the level of disbelief towards media such as CNN, the Washington Post, and the New York Times increased. The second source is a newspaper article from the Economic Times, which describes the use of Donald Trump on Twitter as a weapon to issue impropers against Biden after knowing the results on November 3rd, 2020. In a tweet written in capital letters, he noted that there was a voter fraud across the country and labeled the New York Times along with a map of the United States, which pointed out that he received 10.1 million more votes in the US than he received 4 years ago. In another tweet, he tagged the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and said that there was a manipulation in the election because they didn't even let Republicans observers participate in the vote count.
The third source of research that we used was from the Business Insider. Uh, it was written by John Haltiwager. It's an analysis based on the events and policies that ex-President Donald Trump took in his 4 years of presidency, taking special consideration in the most important things that happened because of him, classifying it as if it was a complete failure or a success. So this article helps our work greatly because we know now the main reasons why United States is like it is today. The fourth source of research is from from Britannica. It is a very important resource for our work because it's an article that explains with clarity all the presidential mistakes that Donald Trump did during his presidency. It had dates of almost every event and as well all the names of the people involved in each one of them. We can see in detail everything that happened in every of those mistakes. The focus for our final work is that we are going to have in the final work more in-depth and extensive analysis about each of the topics, seeing what is its cause and effect inside as well as outside the United States. Within each of the subtitles, we will delve more directly into all the various factors that could influence the problem. This is the bibliography. Thank you.